ते अवधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पातञ्जलि प्राञ्जलिना नतोऽस्मि। हरि ओम। We are in the third adhyaya, Vibhuti-pada of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We are trying to see the so-called siddhis, which are not the powers as assumed by everyone, but these are the state of higher consciousness attained by yogi by virtue of the opening of Pandora's box, because of ability of the yogi to do sanyama, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, all three together on any one aspect of manifestation, which is called the height of meditation, leads to unfolding of the secrets of the universe, which are not secrets anymore to the yogi, but always remain secret to us because of our inability of our chitta to do the sanyama. An ordinary man is not able to concentrate or meditate the way a yogi does. And this process of attainment of higher consciousness by yogi is the result of, is the fruition of enormous efforts taken by him in many, many births. The path goes to the stages of chitta shuddhi, obliteration of chitta vikshepa, vikshepa saha anubhava, as we call them, the vyadhida sthana, stena, alasya, pramada, avirati, all those are lost or destroyed by the yogi, and the chitta shuddhi is attained first. So once the chitta is pure and clean, pristine, and at the same time absent in any kind of wavering motion, agitation, such a chitta is able to take the journey that is required for dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. This dharana, dhyana, samadhi, when practiced for a very long time, many a times with the help of a guru, or a guru coming in the form of Ishvara, Ishvara pranidhanatva, then such a yogi reaches the heights which are unsurpassed even by the gods. The yogi, by repetitive practice of the samadhi, because adept in doing the sanyama on any object instantly, he doesn't have to prepare for the meditation. His a mere glance at an object or a thought is enough for him to focus dharana, dhyana, samadhi at once. And once he does that, everything is an open book. The Prakriti bears open itself in front of yogi, and there is nothing left as secret for the yogi. And that is why samsara sakshat karanat purvajati jnanam. A yogi becomes adept in knowing all the past lives. He comes to know the knowledge of yester births. And how does he do that? It is by doing the sanyama on the samskar. We all know that every karma that we do creates a samskar, an impression on the mind. A mere casual cursory look, even at a mountain, creates a samskar in the mind that it is a very beautiful sight. The beautiful sight and the beauty of the mountain is the culmination of samskar into vasana, because then you feel like seeing such a sight again and again. Howsoever egalitarian and beautiful it may be, creation of such samskaras is not something that is permitted in yoga, because every samskara leads to formation of vritti. The vritti, the samskara could be positive or negative, that doesn't matter. A samskara is the impression made by an object on the mind, while vasana is the culmination of the reaction of that particular impression on the mind. By seeing a beautiful lady, the roop of that lady gets impressed upon the mind, on the chitta or the antakarana. That is samskara. Now this samskara leads to the vasana. The vasana is the reaction of this impression of this lady, and the vasana is that you would like to have company of such a lady. So having company of an object for the sake of enjoyment, hoping that the happiness lies there in such kind of association, is the vasana formation, the desire formation. So first there is an impression, and then there is a desire formation. Now these impressions are always latent on the chitta and antakarana. A million, a billion, or a trillion sanskaras can be adopted by the chitta. Chitta is not a physical object, so it does not have limitation of having the number of samskaras. We can have samskaras billions and billions in number, and then the samskaras or the impression of our interaction with the world lies superficially as well as deep inside the chitta. Some of the samskaras do not come to the surface because of want of the occasion or the situation. So mind well, there are many samskaras in us. We are not aware because they were made couple of births back. We are not even aware of it. We are only aware of the samskaras that are coming in the recent times. However, the vasanas that are created out of these samskaras always give rise to a kind of inclination, a kind of propensity, which is the vasana. The desire pattern can be observed. This desire pattern is called character of a person. Swami Vivekananda always stressed upon a point that you should be a man of a good character. A good character comes from good vasana comes from a good samskara, and good samskara comes from a good interaction, satsanga. And then these samskaras are the minutest, subtle, not tangible materially, but present definitely on the antakarana or the chitta. A yogi, because of his ability to do the sanyama and his strong mind, he is able to do sanyama on this subtle aspect of the impressions. So when anybody comes in front of him, he focuses on that chitta, on his antakarana, and he comes to know what samskaras and what vasanas he is carrying. Not only he comes to know of the vasanas and the samskaras of current times, but of the older times or the previous births. And that is how he comes to know the previous births of anyone. Many, many births it is possible for the yogi to see whenever he does the sanyama. So the sanskaras are of two types, the vasana rupa and karmashaya rupa. Vasana rupa is the reaction, smruti klesha hetavaha vasana rupaha. The sanskar that creates this klesha, smruti, these are the vasanas. And karmashaya rupa, vipaka hetavaha dharma adharma rupaha, jati ayur bhoga rupa trividha karma phalatvat karmashaya rupaha. That means every impression of our interaction with any object or things outside gives right to two things. One vasana, second karmashaya. Vasana is the propensity or the reactive pattern that we form, and karmashaya is actually the phalam that we are going to get, which is in the form of jati, ayu and bhogaha. We have seen jati, ayu, bhogaha in detail in the second sadhana pada. Once this particular Sayama is done by the yogi, then the yogi gets purva janma jnanam of that particular person, which the person himself may not be aware. And there are umpteen number of examples of the yogis of very high order having this power. Of course, one of the yogi having the highest power was Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa could read a person in and out. Whenever the disciples came to them, he declared the first one has come, and when the last came, he said, thus far, no further disciple will come. He interacted with Mathurji, and with Mathur, he said, Mathur, now there will be 16 disciples coming here. Kalima is going to send 16 boys to me. And whenever he saw every one of them, he knew them as if he was reading a book. To give an example, one of the very young engineer working with the government British department, expert in building bridges and dams, happened to come and meet him. The moment he came, a tall young man having robust body, the moment Ramakrishna Paramahamsa saw him, he said, gentlemen, come here and wrestle with me. The young boy was really disturbed. He said, this gentleman called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa wants to have a wrestling match with me. So he kept quiet and he felt shy. But Ramakrishna Paramahamsa insisted that please come and have a wrestling with me. Now imagine Thakurda Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in 1885 was a very emaciated person, absolutely weak, unable to even sit properly because of the cancer of the throat. But he was telling Prakashananda, the disciple, that come and fight with me, have a wrestling with me. Initially, he thought it is a joke. But when Ramakrishna insisted upon it, Prakashananda had no reason to say no. So ultimately, he removed his shirt and everything and got prepared for doing the wrestling with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And the wrestling actually took place naturally. Prakashananda, being a young, tall boy and a robust boy, he could literally push Ramakrishna Paramahamsa closer to the window. At that point of time, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, okay, fine, I lost. Everybody was surprised. Why did he do that? And when it was asked to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he said, can't you see? He is none else than a wrestler who wrestled with Lord Krishna during his Mathura times. See how many births must have passed between Mathura time of Krishna and Prakashananda's birth in 1885. But still it could be read by Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Similar was the case of Sharadananda and Shashi Maharaj, commonly called as Ramakrishnananda. Both these brothers, when they came to Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he said, look, who has come here? Everybody was astonished. The next statement that he made, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, was, they are not nobody, but they are the friends of Jesus Christ, and they were present in the Last Supper. They are reborn, and this is their last birth. There are many examples like this where Ramakrishna Paramahamsa could read the past lives. Swami Abhedananda, the yogi par excellence, whose name was Kali Prasad, when Kali came for the first time to meet Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, oh, here comes a yogi. He looked at him and said, you were a yogi in the last birth, and this is your last birth. You are not going to be reborn again. So much so that every disciple, whenever he wanted to do upasana, Ramakrishna used to tell him which upasana to do. Some of the disciples said that they want to do Saguna Upasana. Ramakrishna used to say, no, you do Nirguna Upasana because I can clearly see that you are a Nirguna Upasaka. If you remember, in Mahabharata, when Bhishmacharya was in a Sharapanjara, he asked Yogeshwara Krishna why I am suffering like this. And it was Yogeshwara who said that many, many births back, you have killed a lizard for no reason and you threw it on the thorn, and that is why you are suffering. This is Purva Jati Jnanam. Yogi can do Sanyama, and with this Sanyama, not only he comes to know the Samskara, but he also comes to know the Desha Kala Zata. That means in that birth you were born as this, in under this circumstances, when this king was ruling, to that extent the knowledge can come. In the Bhashyam of this particular sutra, the Vachaspati Mishra Maharaj has given example of a yogi of Vedic times. His name was Bhagavan Jaigishavya. This Bhagavan Jaigishavya was such a high level yogi that he had a Dasha Mahakalpa Jnana. What is Dasha Mahakalpa Jnana? We know that a Srushti is created, then there it stays as Kalpa, and then there is a Pralaya. Between Srushti and Pralaya, the intervening period is called Kalpa. One Srushti, then one Pralaya, one Kalpa happens. Dasha Kalpa is 10 times the Srushti is produced, 10 times the Pralaya happens. Bhagavan Jaigishavya had knowledge of each and everything produced or manifested during each and every Kalpa of 10 such Kalpas. So he was called Dasha Mahakalpa Jnana he had. And this Jaigishavya Rishi said, mind well, this Jnana is a Vivekaja Jnana, not a Viveka Khyati. What it means is, it is still the attainment made by the Buddhi. And the Viveka Khyati or the Purusha Khyati or the Kaivalya is still beyond it. This is just to give a glimpse of how difficult it is and how high it is to get Kaivalyam. Dhyana vastita yadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino tasya anta nasura suragana devaya tasmai namaha. Even the gods propitiate the yogis, because yogis and rishis are far beyond the achievements of gods. Then comes the next siddhi. It is called pratyayasya parichitta jnanam. Everybody's mind is a storehouse of the impressions that are currently lurking in his mind. Right now, we all are thinking about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, and the mind is filled with thoughts of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, or perhaps what I am talking. Your mind is constantly thinking upon the words that are coming on your ears. So your current content of your mind is filled with all the thoughts of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. A total content of the mind at the current position is called pratyaya. A pratyaya means what is there right now in your mind. Now this pratyaya can be a thing for doing sanyama for the yogi. So if a yogi concentrates on the chitta of anybody, he comes to know right now what the person is thinking. Mind well, there is a difference between Purva Jati Jnanam. The knowledge of previous births is by the samskaras and the karmashayas. But chitta pratyaya is the current state of mind. So a person comes, many a times it is to happen with Gurudeva. People used to come to him and he would know what is there in his mind. And it's been there in many, many saints' life. So by doing sanyama on the person's chitta, now the sutra here says, pratyayasya parachitta jnanam. Now parachitta means by doing this sanyama on somebody else's chitta, or the yogi does sanyama on his own chitta. There is a little bit of controversy here. Some of the commentators like Vijnana Bhaksha Maharaj, they have taken a stand that a yogi does the sanyama on his own chitta, while Vachaspati Mishra Maharaj and even the Raja Martanda Vritti of Bhoja, they take as the chitta of somebody else. The matter is not really of a consequence for us, because a yogi can do Sanyama on any chitta, his own as well as anybody else's. And many a times, by knowing his own chitta, he already knows what is going on in his mind. So why would he concentrate on his own chitta? So it is always the other's chitta. Now, this is what we have umpteen examples of how a yogi comes to know what is going on in somebody's mind. To give a small example, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was propitiating Kalimata. The worship was going on, the archana was going on, and there were a lot of people in attendance. And the most important dignitary in the attendance was none else than Rani Rashamati, a queen, a rich person, and not only that, the patron of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the lady who gave lakhs of rupees on those days to build the Dakshineshwara temple. She was in attendance for the puja. And while performing the puja, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa suddenly got up and gave a tight slap to this Rani Rashamati. A Rani being slapped was something unbelievable for all the attendees, and the guards immediately came in order to punish Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and the Rani said, "Don't do that." And what had happened was, Thakur Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, at the time of Kali Puja, you're thinking of commercial interests. What had happened was Rani Rashamati agreed that she was thinking about building a project that she was building while the Kali Puja was going on. This indicates that at any point of time, a yogi is able to read anybody's mind. Same thing happened in case of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, when he was in Chicago, one of the famous French opera singer by name Madame Calvi. Madame Calvi was the most famous opera singer of those days. Imagine a lady who used to go out for her tours of singing to America, hiring a personal ship, having as many as 800 trunks, enormous jewelry, a very rich lady. So famous was she that even the Queen of England used to get up and salute her, while she never got up in her presence. That was the stature of this lady. But while performing in Chicago, he came to know that while during the performance, he got a news that she lost her only child. That led to a lot of depression in her. She attempted to do a lot of suicides. 3-4 attempts were done. And then at the suggestion of somebody, she was told to meet Swami Vivekananda. And when she went to meet Swami Vivekananda was sitting in the room. She came inside. And the first thing that Swami Vivekananda said is, "Come, my child, I can see how sad you are." And then he spoke about what is going on in her mind so correctly that there were only tears flowing through Madame Calvi's eyes. And she said, "How do you know all this about me?" And the answer given by Swami Vivekananda is, "My child, I can read you like an open book." This reading of open book is nothing else but this is the pratyaya reading of the chitta. So the total content of the mind, it is possible for every yogi to read it. Mind well, this is nothing else but the result of Sanyama. That means a yogi doesn't sit idle. He is either focusing or doing Sanyama on the nature. So he is what is called as Atma Rata. Or else when he interacts with outside, he has no interest in the interaction outside. But if he at all interacts with anything outside, he does it with Sanyama. Right now, our chitta has got diffraction. It gets scattered with many things. So our continuous practice is to shift from one object to another object. The mind keeps shifting. The mind is full of thousands of thoughts. It never remains steady. Try to remember any occasion or any moment where you feel that you are concentrating on a particular thing. Even when we are reading the scriptures, even when we are listening, mind well, the mind is shifting from one word to another word, one meaning to another meaning, trying to jostle with the meaning of different things. So that means there is a variety with which there is a fleetingness that we see in the aspect of working of mind. If we see a cooking that is going on, we would see a utensil, we'll see a lady who is cooking, we'll see the different types of masalas that she is using, we'll see what she's trying to do, we will see the gas, we'll see the fire, we will see the plates, we will see. So what happens is the mind is fleeting. Even while working, we are not on one thing. We are trying to write a mail or something by hand. We stop in between. Suddenly we realize that we are thinking something else. We come back to the topic that we are writing. We do not get the proper word while writing simply because we are not focusing or concentrating upon it. We procrastinate and we try to postpone a thing simply because the mind doesn't feel like being in the one place for a long time. What it means is our mind is full of vikshepa, diffraction, distraction, scattering. And yogi's mind is exactly opposite of it. The way we are used to distraction of the mind, yogi is used to the sanyama. So he keeps doing sanyama always. And unfortunately, when such a yogi is subjected to a routine matter thing, even there he tries to do the sanyama. That is why Swami Vivekananda, you'll be surprised to know that he was a good cook. But whenever he learned any new thing, because of his sanyama, he was able to adopt it faster. Swami Vivekananda learned Norwegian way of cooking within no time. Once in America, Swami Vivekananda met with a young lady. He asked her, "Who are you?" And the lady said, "Sir, I am a painter." She said, "Oh, that's very good. Will you teach me painting?" And the lady said, "Sir, it takes time. You have to be a graduate in painting, etc." But Swami Vivekananda insisted that she should teach him the painting. The girl was very shy. She was quite scared because Vivekananda was such a man of high stature. But still, when she agreed, Vivekananda obtained a sketch paper and a pencil. And first thing he did is he did namaskaram to this young girl. She was surprised. And Swami Vivekananda said, "You are going to be my guru." A guru, irrespective of the age, is always on the higher pedestal. And that is how the teaching started. The girl told him how the sketch is made. Vivekananda took the paper in his hand and made one or two paintings in front of her. And the girl was amazed to see the proficiency that he had in the painting. And she said, "Swamiji, you're not telling me the truth. You are a painter by yourself." And Swamiji said, "I swear, I have never touched painting or I have never done painting." What it means is, by doing sanyama, there is nothing impossible for an yogi. That is why Swami Vivekananda, in a bare period of almost a week or two in the land of Goa, he was able to study the entire Latin library about the Christian religion, which he used in abundance while quoting in his lectures when he went in 1895, etc., when he was in America. So what it means is, the chitta of a yogi is like a mopping paper. It pots every knowledge everywhere, and not only the knowledge that is manifesting in the external aspect, the entire internal external aspect is bare open to him, and he is able to gain the knowledge all that within no time. Then comes the 20th sutra. The sutra is very important. Tatsalambanam tasya vishaya abhutvat. The parachitta jnanam, the knowledge of what is going on in somebody's mind, is always limited. Even though he is a yogi, there is a parichitta jnana sima, limitation of knowing what is going on in somebody's mind. What is this limitation? Suppose somebody is thinking about a lady. A yogi would immediately recognize that he's thinking about a lady, but he will not be able to know which lady. So he can't tell that you were thinking about Mrs. XXX. Why so? Because that lady has created the chitta content pratyaya, and the yogi is reading the pratyaya. So it is like focusing on the reflection. The original object is object of the chitta of the other person. So on that object, the yogi is not able to focus. I hope I'm clear in telling what I want to state. The impressions of what I am seeing outside are in my mind. Then yogi reads the impression, current contents of my mind, but they have come because of something outside me, which the yogi cannot see because that object is beyond the chitta. That is why the alambanam cannot be an object of sayama for the yogi. And that is the reason why when parachitta jnanam, or when they read somebody's mind, they're able to tell everything about this except the specificity of the object that created that particular content of the mind. For example, as Swami Vivekananda told Madam Calvi, he said, "Oh, my child, you are full of sadness. So, dukkhamaya chitta, ragamaya chitta, anuragamaya chitta, this can be told by reading the mind. But the cause of that can be told in a very vague manner, not in specific manner." And one of the best example for this is if we read Yoga Vasishtha. In the Yoga Vasishtha, in the beginning chapters, we will see that it is Bhagwan Sri Rama who is in a very sad condition. He is in melancholic condition. Everybody, Dasharatha and everybody is trying to find out why Lord Rama is in sad condition. He had just come from the Pariyatanam of these different Rajasthalam, and he suddenly become marused. Nobody knew what is the reason. And naturally, who was better than the higher yogi called Vasishtha Rishi? Vasishtha Maharaj said, "Rama, you are very, very sad. I can see that. May I know the reason why you are so sad?" That means Vasishtha could read the mind of Rama, Bhagwan Sri Rama, as a sad thing. But he could not know why the sadness has come, because the alambanam of the sadness was outside the chitta of Bhagwan Sri Rama. So this is an example that the Parichitta Jnanam has a limit of this particular kind. Second, the next Siddhi is the 21st Sutra. And the Siddhi goes like this. Kaya Rupa Sanyamat. Kaya means Shariram. Kaya Rupa Sanyamat. Now, the body itself can be an object of Sanyama. Kaya Rupa Sanyamat. Tad Grahya Shakti Stambhe Chakshuhu Prakasha Asamprayoge Antardhanam. A yogi suddenly disappears to the eyes of everyone. He doesn't die. He just disappears. How this happens? Where does he go? How is it that others can't see him? The answer lies in this sutra. What he does is, he does sanyam on his own body. Kaya Rupa Sanyamat. Then what happens? Tada Grahya Shakti Stambhe. Whenever you see anybody, what is happening actually is your netra chakshu, your eyes are trying to grip the rupam of the another person. I see Himanshuji and I say, "Oh, Himanshu is here." Right now, if you ask me, I will say, "No, he's not here. He may be in his home. I just saw him on the screen some time back." Why I am not able to see him now? Because my netra golaka, my chakshu, my eye are not able to grahya, to grapple, to catch hold of the rupam, because the rupam is not around. That means the presence of anybody's rupam is nothing else but the power of the eyes to behold the image. But by chakshu prakasa asamprayoge, the power of the eyes to behold the rupam is completely scuttled by the yogi, because of which the eyes remain there, but they can't see the rupam, because the grahya shakti is something which is done khandita by the yogi. And this is called antardhanam. Antardhanam is establishing inside. Establishing outside, then you can see. If you established inside, you can't see. Antardhanam. So then the question here is the Shakti Pratibambrandha of Netra Grahitata, the ability of the eyes or the inability of the Netrendriya to do Prakasha Sanyoga with the body establishes the Antardhanata. This is called Chakshu Grahitva Rupini Shakti. This complicated Sanskrit word in normal simple language means the inability of eyes to grapple the shape or to behold the image. This power of everyone is scuttled by the yogi by doing what is called Kaya Rupa Sanyama, by focusing on his own body. So all the instances and examples that we see in the Puranas as well as with the yogis, Shankaracharya did it. His own two disciples, when they followed him during his last days, when he'd actually become Antardhana. Nobody knows about the death of Shankaracharya. All they know is he went up there in Himalayas towards the mountain. That was the last that was heard by these two disciples, the closest ones. But nothing after that was known to him because he was Antardhanam. And that is the reason why in Mahabharata Vanaparva, if we read, we know that when the Vanara Sena wanted to fight with the Rakshasa Sena, most of the Rakshasas, although they were Rakshasas, they were yogis. That is why Jamba, Khara, Prasaj, Pishach, Adham, all those Rakshasas, they were not available to be seen by the Vanaras. And the Vanaras were getting blows from invisible Rakshasas. That invisibility was then ascertained by Bibhishana. Bibhishana was the one who was a yogi and he knew this Antardhanam Shakti. So what he did is by yogic powers again, he destroyed the Antardhanam Shakti of the Rakshasas and they become visible to the Vanaras. So the story that was told in Mahabharata is by virtue of power of a yogi, he can do Sanyama on the body. And when he does Sanyama on the body, he basically does the Sanyama on all the Mool Tattvas of the Panchamahabhuta, because body is made up of Panchamahabhuta. So Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, all five he does the Sanyama on them. So that is why there is Shabda Antardhan. That means whatever he speaks, nobody will able to listen. Sparsha Rupa, nobody can touch him. Then he can have Swad or a Rasa Antardhan. Nobody can taste the sweat or anything because he is no more there, as if because he is absent or Antardhan means nothing, no trace of his left. Gandha Antardhan. You cannot even presence of smell. Majority of yogis, they emanate pleasant smell from their bodies. Even that smell goes complete absent when this Antardhanam Shakti is exhibited through the Sanyama by the yogi. Such a yogi then further can also utilize Sanyama. Once the technique of Sanyama is there, it can be used in many ways or many places. Mind well, none of them are used by yogis for any personal gain. It is possible or it is used only when the situation demands it. And since yogi is nothing else but a walking god, it is as per the Prakriti when required they are exhibited. In order to create the Shraddha, in order to create an atheist into a theist, in order to specifically put somebody into the right track, a guru may exhibit it to a disciple. So it is only occasionally it is exhibited, but that doesn't mean it is not there. In fact, all these vidyas or all these siddhis or all these powers that are there with yogi, still a yogi will behave as if he is the most common of all. That's why it is very difficult to distinguish an accomplished yogi, because normally none of the accomplished yogis would ever try to show their power. They normally behave incognito. They are not easily recognized. The next mantra, the 22nd, says, Sopakrama nirupakramascha karma tat sanyamat aparanta jnanam arishtebhyo va. The meaning of this is, there are two types of karmas, Sopakrama and another is nirupakrama. Two types of karmas are there. When on both these karmas the sanyama is done by the yogi, then he gets aparanta jnanam. That means mrityu jnanam. A yogi is able to tell about the death of anyone in this world, as well as he is able to read all the ill omens, portents as they call in English, all the ill omens of the death, which are called arishtebhya. The arishta means that which gives omen, ill omen about the impending danger, and the highest danger is death. Yogi is able to read the arishta also, as well as he is able to read and tell when the person is going to die. How does this happen? This happens by doing sanyama on sa upakrama and nirupakrama karma. We all know that karma has three aspects: the sanchita, the prarabdha, the kriyamana. The sanchita is nothing else but the karma ashaya, the storehouse of all the karmas that we have done lying at one place. Prarabdha is the part of sanchita that has come out for fruition, for giving the fruits in the current life. And kriyamana is what we are doing or what we are creating right now as our karma. We are doing right now a karma of listening to Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which is a pious karma. So naturally, the phalam will be pious. We will be further propelled for the study of Vedas. May not be in this birth, but maybe in the next birth. But the phalam will come. Because this is a sattvic act, the phalam will be sattvic. So kriyamana. Now yogi is able to see all the three separate with any individual. Now if he focuses on his prarabdha, he comes to know what are the karmas that have been taken out of the storehouse for this particular gentleman, for this particular birth. And then he can say, okay, in this birth he has come as this, and after this, this is going to happen. And then this is the point where his prarabdha is going to end. That is the point of his death. The yogi comes to know about the death of anyone because he is able to read the prarabdha karmas that are going on. It's like a film of which we know the current show that is going on, while the yogi is able to see the entire film at once. Not only the entire film at once, he can also go back into the sanchita. With the same confidence, Swami Vivekananda had told the Shishya that I know my past 40 births or so. I had earlier given an example of a disciple of Tukaram Maharaj called Sant Bahena Bai, who had actually, she has written about 9 births of her own and her relationship with her son who was her disciple. So what it means is, it is possible to know about one's own birth as well as about somebody else's point of time of death, and that is because of sa upakrama and nirupakrama karma. What is sa upakrama? Sopakrama means ready for fruition, prarabdha. Nirupakrama, not yet ready for fruition, that is sanchita. So that means there are some ready-made karmas which are absolutely ready for giving the fruit which we are enjoying. That is called prarabdha. Doing sanyama on that, the current entire history of the person is in front of him, including the future. By doing sanyama on the sanchita, even the older karmas, and the older karmas, that is why many a times saintly people say that, look, you are a punyavan purush. To give an example, one of the disciples who came to Ramakrishna had a habit of taking alcoholic drinks, and he was also doing prostitution. Everybody knew about it, and they were startled to know that he comes, a shameful fellow, he comes and touches the feet of Thakur, who is so pure and pious. When Thakur came to know about it, Ramakrishna said, you all keep quiet. This man is very pious. Everybody was surprised. How can an alcoholic and a prostitute person going to prostitute can be pious? He said, you're only looking at his present acts. I know his prarabdha. I know his sanchita. He will soon get devoted to Kali. This is very important for us because any outward sign of intellect, of religious study, of scriptural study, of a kind of a show that anybody puts up, we really starts bowing in front of him. And anybody who is doing some papam, we immediately come to the conclusion that he's a third-rate chap. He is not fit for spiritual journey. Never do so. Never feel depressed. Never feel bad about the bad qualities that you have. You may be having bad qualities. They need to be get ridden off. Agreed. But that doesn't mean that currently exhibited bad qualities doesn't mean that you are abode of bad qualities. At the same time, Lord always gives a chance and an opportunity. Presently, the prarabdha may be exhibiting the bad qualities. Does not mean that the sanchita is full of bad qualities. So it is better not to despise anyone in this world, because what you despise is the sinful activity, not the sinner. Mahatma Gandhi knew the technique very well. So he said, hate the sinner, sin, not the sinner. The reason being, Vaishnava janato tene kahiye. They're all Vaishnava jana. कोणाही जीवाचा न गोडो दुस्वास. वर्ण सर्वेश्वर पूजनाचे, वर्ण सर्वेश्वर पूजनाचे. You should not be hating anyone because you do not know his past. The yogi knows about it. So that is why karma will always have a phalam, for sure. Avashyam eva bhoktavyam krutam karmam shubhashubham. So phalam has to be there. But which phalam is coming right now into the fruition is read by the yogi like an open book, as well as his sanchita he can read. So that is how he comes to know what is called as aparanta jnanam. In the sutra, mrityu word is not used. Why not? Because mrityu in shastra is only at the time of pralaya. What we call as death or mrityu is nothing else but the change of the body. The suffering of both the things, sukham, dukkham, is continuing. You just change the dress and go to the next stage. That is why it is called aparanta. Aparanta means it is the death for a temporary period. So it is why it is called aparanta. Apart from the knowledge of the death, a yogi can also get the knowledge about the arishta. Arishta means every event that happens on this earth in the Prakriti, there is always a sign that it is coming. So there is nothing in this world that happens. If earthquake has to happen, signs come. We and you and me cannot read it, but the rodents, they read it and they start coming out. The rats start coming out. The dogs start barking. What it means is there are always signs of things that are coming. We may note it, we may not note it. That is how Mrityu being an event, there are signs also. And the signs are not restricted to you. The Mrityu may be happening of yours, but the signs are there around. That is why we say there are in some communities, we have some kind of a understanding that if you listen, a dog is crying is not a good sign. Sometimes some birds doing certain sound, we say that is a sign of death. These are our superstition. Actual the arishta, the actual signs are read easily by the yogis. That is why many a times the yogis to a very healthy person also say, you go home. Don't go here and there, because they already know that his last time has come. Although he may look hale and hearty. So these are called as arishta or mrityu suchaka chinha. This is revealed to yogi because of Sanyama. Arishta is of three types. These signs are of three types. Adhyatmika, adhidaivika and adhibhautika. What is the adhyatmika? the signs of death in your own body. A person who is dying is not able to see or perhaps understand the signs. Some of the signs that are given, adhyatmic signs, are, one is called Pihita Karna. If you close your ears with both the fingers, when you close the ears, we see a sound inside. It's a humming sound. Some sound you get when you close both your ears. Actually, when you close the ears, outside sounds are obliterated. Yet there is an inside sound which you listen. This sound stops. Pihita karnaha swadehe ghosham na shrunoti. That is a sign of death, impending death. Second, when you close your eyes, you're not seeing anything, yet you see a prakasha golaka inside the eye. This prakasha golaka starts diminishing when the death comes close by. So that is why Pihita Karna and Netra, these are certain signs of impending death in a body. Different thing that perhaps a dying person is not in a position to put the fingers into his ears or perhaps see the by closing the eyes. But the fact is the signs are there. They are called adhyatmic signs. These signs, yogi is able to read looking at the person without closing the ears. Second is adhibhautika signs. Adhibhautika means you see bhuta around, you see objects around. There is a tree, there is a mountain, there is a water. All of a sudden you see a huge black ox with a black structure on the top called Yamaraj. Sighting of Yamaraj sitting on this particular bull or ox is a sign of impending death, which the person may or may not see, dying person, but in his presence, yogi does see it. And that is how he comes to know that this person is going to die. There is also adhidaivikam arishtas chinha. Adhidaivikam, we all know that Swarga is a place, we have already a premonition that Swarga means everything is fine, nice, everything is so good, people are not dying, people are not getting old, there is ample enjoyment, entertainment. This is what our concept of Swarga. All of a sudden, a person who is coming close to the death starts getting either dreams or starts thinking about the Swarga in a viparita way. Akasmat Swargam Sarvam Viparitam Vapashyati. What does he see? He thinks of the Swarga, but suddenly he says that there are people who are suffering. There are people dying. Lots of people are lying in the Swarga. It is actually imagining a Swarga, but in a Viparita way. This is called Adhidaivika Chinnam of the Mrityu. So that is why this could be another assessment made by the yogi through Sanyama. So whenever a person comes, whenever a person who is not sick is brought to meet the yogi, many times we do that. For the cure of certain things, we bring the person to the yogi. But yogi, by looking at him, comes to know how much life is left in that. And then accordingly, many times they say, okay, take him back, nothing will happen to him. And then we say, oh, what a miracle. Yogi Maharaj said, Swamiji said, nothing will happen, nothing happened. This is a miracle for us. For actually the fact for yogi, it is a sanyama on his past karma. The next power or the siddhi that comes in 23rd mantra is called Maitriyadishu Balani. This is a very important thing for us to see. By doing sanyama on Maitri, etc., what is Maitri? We have already seen Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha. We studied that in Sadhana Pad. Where did we study it? When we were studying Chitta Vikshepa. If you remember, we were trying to see what are the Vikshepas of Chitta, and we came across Vyadhi, Sthyan, Alasya, Pramada, then Avirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumika, and Anavasthitata. These are the Vikshepas, distractions of the Chitta. And in order to control them, 4 bhavanas we were told. They are actually very important for us. We should be inculcating them in our daily life. What are they? Maitri, Mudita, Karuna, Upeksha. What is Maitri? Anybody who is having enjoyment, you should be friend to them. Meaning what? दूसरों के आनंद में आनंद. If somebody is happy, you be happy. To the same extent that person is happy. Actually, it is different thing. Unfortunately, we become immediately jealous. We say that he doesn't deserve it, but he got it. No, exactly opposite of that. If somebody gets a Ferrari, you should get an happiness of actually you getting a Ferrari. That is Maitri. Karuna, somebody is suffering. You should actually be in his shoes to suffer to the same extent he is suffering. This happened with Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Shivananda. This is called Karuna. Mudita is again all those who are saintly people, feeling good about them. Moment you say Gurudeva, we all feel elated. We all feel joyous. This is Mudita. Unfortunately, we feel it only about Gurudeva. And moment somebody else is there, oh, he's not our Guru. No. All knowledgeable people, all siddhas, all rishis, all saints, all big yogis, you should feel happy, thinking about them, seeing about them, interacting about them. That is called mudita. And what about the bad people? If you come across a sinner, what do? You don't hate him. You do upeksha. That means ignore. Don't think about it. No good, no bad. That is upeksha. These four are there for chitta prasadanam. It is the first step that a sadhaka should take to become a better person. Incidentally, all these four ultimately give you what is required as a currency in sadhana called sattva guna. So Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha, if executed properly, gives rise to sattva guna. But a yogi who is accomplished yogi, he uses these three in a different way. He does sanyama on Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, not on Upeksha. Only Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and because of that he gets balam. What kind of balam? Because of doing sanyama on Maitri, that means feeling good about others' good, he does sanyama on that, because of which the person feels that he is extremely friendly to him. So he gets Maitri Balam, Karuna Balam, and Harsha Balam or Mudita Balam. Because of which, what happens? Even if two people are enemies of each other, those enemies all both come, get attracted by this person and come and stay with him as friends. Outside they may be enemies. Swami Vivekananda was simply going in the train, was simply going in the road in the procession. People were looking at him and they were feeling so good about it. There were people who felt, no, he has a golden hue. He is so good. He is so, everybody was getting attracted. Akarshanam, Gurudeva. Our Gurudeva was a center of attraction wherever he went. What is this center of attraction? The attraction came to a man, a woman, a child, a young and old, good and a bad. Everybody felt attracted. Maitri Balam. All people suffering, they went there and felt, oh, he listens to me. Karuna Balam. Anybody who just had a son or a marriage or whatever, or Jairamji had a marriage, he wanted Gurudev to come, wanted to share the happiness. Mudita Balam. That is why the best example of this particular sutra is Chatampi Swami. Chatampi Swami, when he was dying, believe me, around his bed, frogs and snakes were there. You know, frog and snake cannot be friends. But both were there present around his bed. What it means is, he was a yogi of a very high order. That is how one after the other siddhis, they keep coming to the yogi, simply because he has the tool and the technique of sanyama. Once the sanyama is there, There is nothing mysterious in this universe. Everything becomes an open book for him. And yogi uses all that just to see the higher level of consciousness. We all feel completely flabbergasted. We get surprised with the powers, occult powers of a yogi. But what does a yogi feel? Yogi looks at this and says that this is all part of Prakriti and my aim is to go beyond Prakriti. So he looks at these siddhis as unnecessary thing. To an extent, a person of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's stature, he ridiculed the siddhis. Because of this Maitri, Karuna and Maitrayadishu Balani, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was so much adored by the ladies and the gents because his beauty was such. Mind well, he was not a handsome person, but the beauty comes into the body, so much so that people used to climb on the trees just to have a look at Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Even Sharada Mata has said, his own wife has written that women is to come in hordes, men is to come in hordes just to have a look at Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And what did Ramakrishna Paramahamsa did? He went to Kali Mata and told Kali Mata, hey Mata, what is this you have given me? People are looking at me because they feel I am beautiful. Please take this away. This is called a higher yogi. He is not interested in any of the siddhis. They come like, today we breathe. We don't feel it is a siddhi because breathing is normal for us. So siddhis are normal for yogi. There are a couple of other siddhis also that we will see in the next session. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om Sanjay ji, just waiting if someone has any clarifications.
Hari Om Sanjay ji, Rajendran here.
Hari Om.
Oh, totally stunned today. So amazing. See, I have heard a word called Dravyadvaidam, which is similar to what you not similar actually. It is a little lower level of what is be happy when you have a Harari, and I should be very happy about it. That is what you call the Karunana.
That is Maitri.
Maitri, Maitri. Sorry, Maitri. But here in Dravyadvaitam is a different type. At least when I buy a Harari, and after some time you also buy, then I feel jealous about it. The yogis, the guru said that you should not be very jealous about it. You should be thinking that you also need, the other person also need a Harari like you. So Dravya Advaidam, in the matter of Dravya, whatever the possession is there, we should have an Advaita feeling. So does that there is a similarity between this Maitri Bhava and Dravya Advaita, isn't it?
Dravya Dvaitam, as told by Guru, is exactly Maitri. At a lower level, it is interpreted the way you said. At the lower level, you say, him have it, let me have it. The Dravyadvaitam is not like. Dravyadvaitam is precisely Maitri. What it means is, even if I don't have it, if you have it, it is as good as I have it. That is Dravyadvaitam. Because the fact is, Dravyam, that is transactional thing, which anyone has, it is as good as me, because between you and me, there is no difference.
Yeah.
Yes, so Dravyadvaitam is nothing else but Maitri at the same level. But at a lower level, we may say, iska bhi bhala ho, mera bhi bhala ho. That is at a lower level. A yogi always says, let everybody, sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. That is what the sarve bhavantu. It is not aham bhavami. No, sarve bhavantu. In sarve, if I am there, that is also fine. In survey, if I am not there, that is also fine. My brother gets it. If my son becomes MS in Harvard or whatever, I feel very good. Why? It is as if, the mother and father come say that my son stood first in the university. They have not stood first in the university. This is called Maitri. But that doesn't happen to somebody else's child. That is the problem. When you feel so happy because somebody else's child got first rank, that is called Maitri. Yogis have that. So you go and tell Gurudeva, 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 I studied Upanishad. He would say, very good. He also knows that you haven't studied it up to the level. But why he is happy? Because you are happy, he is happy. This is Maitri. And Mudita goes the same thing, happiness about the realized souls. Mudita is whenever you think of any realized soul, the happiness and chitta prasad that comes, that chitta prasad leads to prasannata. And prasannata is the essence of all. Mana karare prasanna sarva siddhi che sadhana. Tukaram Maharaj says, just make your mind prasanna, all siddhis you will get. Although it's a very simple statement, he is actually focusing on the same thing, Maitri, Karuna, Mudita. Hari
You.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji.
Ji.
You mentioned about this Sri Shankaracharya's demise, he's just vanished, his body just vanished. Can you little more elaborate, because nowhere it is mentioned, I could not read anywhere of this, his demise,
There are many saints who have used antardhanata on many occasions. Some of them have become antardhana during the course of their life. So they became antardhana and came back again. While some of them used this particular Sanyama for leaving the world. Tukaram Maharaj, nobody knows how he died, because what is written is the God came and took him away. And no trace of his body was found anywhere. He used, that is going to come, that Siddhi is going to come later on. This antardhanata is two of the disciples in the last days when Acharya was suffering from some stomach ailment and he had some problem in the previous night and he was moving alone in Himalayas. So these disciples wanted to follow him up and they were following where the Acharya had gone. One shepherd told him that yesterday somebody by this description passed from here and he was not well. And he had some stomach problem. They came to know that it was none else but the Acharya. So they kept pursuing for the Acharya. After, on the last day, they could see Acharya at a distance. And all of a sudden, they found that Acharya, the distance has increased and Acharya has gone up on the mountain. And from there, he simply disappeared. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not die. He disappeared. What is this disappearance or antardhanata? That antardhanata is nothing else but sanyam on the body. So what happens is, they are there, they are walking, they are gone. You cannot see it. Antardhanata doesn't mean that he is not in the body. Antardhanata means others are unable to see him. Then what about a yogi? If you are antardhana and another yogi comes, he can see you. Only a yogi can see an antardhani yogi. That is the reason why many a times you will see a yogi would propitiate in the vacant space. It is very common in Natha Pantha, Gorakshanath, all the Navanathas, Charpatnath, then all the Nathas, Nivruttinath, all these Nathas, Gahini Nath, all them had this particular Siddhi. To give you an example, as late as in the early 19th century, one of the Nathas, they came in the house of a doctor who was doctor in this birth. It was in early 1900, around 1920 or so. He was a doctor in this birth, but he was a yogi of the past birth. So his Guru Shankar Maharaj told him, you are a Nath, you are a yogi. And he said, I don't believe. And then he asked Shankar Maharaj, Ki, Maharaj, is it possible that I can have a darshan of Halasiddhanath? And he said, why not? And believe me, he told him in advance not to tell anybody, but on this date, at this time, he'll be coming in the morning at 8 o'clock. And he said, I will be able to see him. He said, yes, you will see him. He said, what about my wife? He said, tell your wife to exactly entertain as a guest comes. She made, kanda pohe, which is common in Maharashtra, as a dish to eat. Halasiddhanath arrived at 8 o'clock. About 6.5 feet, extremely lustrous body. The doctor could not believe there was a Halasiddhanath in front. He came slowly down from the staircase, sat for an hour in the drawing hall, ate what was offered to him, and then disappeared. Antardhanam. So it is nothing else but another siddhi at a higher level of consciousness. Hari.
Another thing, Sanjay ji, thank you for this explanation, this in details. It's much insight into that. Some learned people or some, you can say, evolved people, persons, I have seen that during the time of death, before their death, they're just saying that somebody has come there or just ask them to move and that kind of thing. Is it this Andardhana or whatever you are mentioning about is happening?
This is called Arishtadnyana. Arishtadnyana yogi has very clearly. So he is able to see by even seeing a healthy person, he will say you will die tomorrow. But many a times the dying person, even though he is not yogi, he can see some Arishta. And these Arishtas are nothing else, but we call them that he is talking absurd. He's talking something, but they actually see certain things because they are not in a normal conscious stage. They are in altered consciousness. So we say, oh, because of the fever, he is speaking like that. Or maybe he taken food for a long time, because we are not able to, even the doctors cannot say why he is talking like this. You can die peacefully. But instead he says that, look, somebody has come, he's calling me. Or if his mother has passed away early, he'll say, no, my mother is calling me. This famous actor who died recently, Irfan Khan, his wife has written that at the time of death, he was telling that Amma is calling me. Amma is his mother who had already passed away. So there are some arishtas, some signs, even the dying person does get in his this thing. Only problem is the signs to know and understand that it is impending death, they may not be in the consciousness stage to decipher it, because the end stage is a very foggy stage. Death is a very, very different phenomena. In the last few wee hours of death, you are not aware of so many things. The awareness itself is a questionable thing. So you do see Arishta, but you may not interpret it properly. In few cases, you can see and interpret it also. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Rajendran ji, no questions from you, right?
There are many
So
questions.
can I ask one more doubt? Okay, sorry. Sanjay ji, this Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, Upeksha, if it is present in a person, you can see that such people, is there any measurement that the evolvement or the spiritual upliftment or anything?
Yes. If Maitri, Karuna, Mudita is in you, people get attracted to you very fast. You're always a wanted person. People feel he's a good guy. He is helpful. You know why? You feel good talking to him. In Hindi, they call it Bada Umda Vyakti Mato hai. He's a very positive guy. Everybody feels like talking about him. And mind well, he may not be a handsome person by our standards. He may be a ugly person but then that ugliness is not seen. They feel attracted to it. This attraction comes because that is why most of the saintly person, since they want welfare of everybody, their Maitri Balam is so high that people literally flock around them. And the classical example is our Gurudeva, Swami Vivekananda. You know, there are interviews taken in, there are some of the interviews that are recorded in America when Vivekananda was there. Some of them have written that Swami Vivekananda is 7 feet tall. He was not. You get a feel that he's a giant, he's a tall personality, he's a Himalayan personality, like Gurudeva. It is like a bundle of energy, you know, going here and there. So, oh, here Swamiji went. Look, Swamiji is sitting. Look, Swamiji is standing. Look, this all happens because of enormous attraction. You won't believe when on the way from towards Madras by train, when Swami Vivekananda was going, people wanted to see him. And there was a station where the train was not to stop. About 200 people were lying on the tracks of the train, saying that either we will die or we will see Vivekananda. Ultimately, the station master sent a telegram. The train halted. Swamiji was only sitting where he was sitting. From the door, from the window, people could get a glance, and there was a fight to see his face. This is called Maitri Balam. And one person in that crowd saw his face, and then and there, he was a soldier in British Army. Then and there, he decided that I have to meet this person in person. And so what he did, he asked somebody, where is Swamiji going? They said he's going to Madras. Where is Madras? They said it is about 150 kilometers down the line. How do I go? So they said, we don't know the way. He thought this train is going, that means if I follow the train, I will reach. Imagine, he walked incessantly without stop for 150 kilometers and went to the Charnock house where the Swamiji was staying, and took Swamiji's darshan. He is nobody else than the last disciple of Swami Vivekananda, called Swami Nishchayananda. Hari Om.